welcome to Menopause Rescue. I'm Dr. Polly Watson. Midlife women are often caught up in a sea of symptoms. Too often, they're overwhelmed by the lack of support from mainstream healthcare. They're inundated with so-called experts who are selling solutions which may lack credibility. I'm a Menopause Society certified gynecologist with both traditional and functional medicine training. I'm here to guide you through this transition and help you decipher the facts from the fads. Armed with credible information, I hope you are empowered to rescue and restore your health, making the second half of your life your best. Hi, I'm Dr. Polly Watson. Welcome to Menopause Rescue. Today, I have the pleasure of being with Dr. Lara Salyer, who is an ex-Burnout physician turned creativity catalyst located in Wisconsin. She spent 15 years as a rural family medicine physician and was struggling with burnout. And to alleviate the heartbreak of feeling trapped in a lackluster career, she started painting, drawing, and running. This regular dose of neurochemical flow state resulted in less stress and cognitive clarity. So she started studying the effects of how stress and cortisol affect physiology. With this, she has joined the Institute for Functional Medicine and the Flow Research Collective, and she's infused this training into patient care and developed the Catalyst Way, which is a method to support practitioners with redesigning their own creative, efficient, and flow-channeled careers in medicine. She also runs her own holistic health practice in Wisconsin and is a proud mom of 3 and lives with her physician husband, a manic dog, and lots of piles of laundry, which are also at my house.
Yes, sister.
So full disclaimer, I am one of Dr. Salyer's catalyst, and I won't leave.
I love it.
Because I have so much fun in there. And so one of the things that I feel like I really learned about you is you are like Jimmy Cricket on my shoulder. Like, what would Lara do?
I love it.
How do I get myself out of this situation? Where are my boundaries? So I feel like you're with me all the time.
Yay.
And when we're working with people in functional medicine, even though you work, a lot of your job now is working with other clinicians, a lot of times boundary setting can be really helpful when folks are trying to change their life and create some more space for themselves to have better eating habits or have better movement patterns or have better stress reduction. So why don't we start off by letting you tell us some ways you work on preventing burnout?
Yes, because burnout happens everywhere, right? Dr. Polly, I mean, it is not just healthcare, it's firefighters, it's police, it's teachers, it's burned out as a mom, as a spouse, as a friend. I mean, burnout is a term that is the worst because it's sort of the end result of chronic stress and cortisol depletion. And it's awful. We don't want to be in burnout. And side note, if you are there, please get support, right? There are many peer-to-peer coaches and mentors that can help you through that process, great therapists. But when we call it to attention and to be aware of the feelings of burnout, which actually is just the same as grief in your brain is acting as if you are grieving a huge loss. You feel depleted, you have emotional exhaustion, you feel depersonalized, like what you're doing doesn't matter. And then you feel like you're not making progress. And this can often be seen in our patients, right? Dr. Polly, I mean, they're working hard to make changes. It's not quite working well for them, and they start to feel burned out in the process. So often I like to anchor them back into, okay, what boundaries are you helping yourself with? Because flow and creativity needs containers, actually. We used to think, oh, we need to go to a tropical island for 5 weeks and write our novel, or we need to, have all this endless time to be creative or paint a painting. Or no, you actually need a starting and an end point, and you get into flow much easier. And part of that is boundary work with our patients. And when you have patients in a functional medicine practice, especially going through transitions like menopause, right? That's a wild time. It's like second puberty. You have no idea what's going on. You're starting to play around with different ways of treating yourself. Maybe you're going to bed at a decent time and you're not revenge scrolling anymore because you're realizing the importance of circadian rhythm in your hormones. And maybe
Right.
you're practicing different ways of eating, and your friends are looking at you like, what's the matter? Don't you want to come out and have a glass of wine? So look at all the opportunities for boundary work, not only with your friends saying, I'm actually going to take care of myself differently in this stage of life. And it's a great invitation and an opportunity to move forward with complete awareness. And I'm just going to try this and see if it works. And also boundaries with yourself of, okay, where am I stepping over my own boundaries that I thought I would say, like going to bed on time, just to get started. Those are some top points I like to talk about with my patients.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if we can't do that, then how do we create the mental bandwidth and the actual space to change our lives, right?
Well
Functional
said.
medicine about lifestyle medicine. What we're doing isn't working, and we need to change something. And that's kind of the theme of the menopause transition too. Like what worked earlier isn't working now. I got to do something different.
Yes. Yes. And it's about, I think it shocks all of us, myself included, as a woman in the perimenopausal time where you kind of confidently feel like you know how your body works. And suddenly the rules have changed. And suddenly it's you're left kind of stitching together things that aren't working anymore. So you have to go back to the drawing board and kind of figure out, okay, where do I need to take this? What do I prioritize in my life now differently than before? And it's a great gift and opportunity to be more vibrant because you're able to explore almost like a new kid, like, ooh, what does this do? And how does this make me feel? And that's why practitioners like you helping your patients, understand and break down the research and the science of really unpacking menopause in their own journey is so important.
So, one of the things that we do with you in the Catalyst group is talk about flow. And when you first started talking about this, I'm like, I've never been in flow in my life. What is she talking about? But then when I really start to try to say, okay, what is an idea I have for the podcast? Or I'm going to go try to work on this book again. Or what is a project? I get out your little diagram that you have of flow, because I think everybody can use this in their lives, even if we're just like trying to do our job and create a work project. If we're a high school student and trying to write a paper,
Yes.
everybody needs flow. So like, can you kind of walk us through like getting unblocked, getting started, recovering, kind of walk us
Yes.
around that? Because I think that would be so useful for so many people.
Oh, I love it. Thank you for this opportunity. It's really the antidote of burnout. When we talked earlier about burnout being grief in the brain, if you put all of our brains in a functional MRI, 63% of healthcare workers have burnout. And
Mhm.
the antidote, it literally, the opposite brainwave pattern is flow, which is coined by a Turkish American psychologist, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and he coined the term flow because it was the only time your brain produces all five neurochemicals of happiness. So
Oh,
anything
wow.
from dopamine, anandamide, endorphins. And it's a wonderful state that you look at kids, they know how to get there. They don't even need a formula. They just know that the minute the bell rings and it's recess time, they run to the swings or they go to play soccer. They build the house with their friends and have a little, housewarming party. I mean, they know how to get into flow. And then fast forward to sports, you know that you're standing at the 3-point line, you're getting into flow. And what people used to think is, oh, maybe flow is only reserved for creative endeavors or sports activities. But that's false. You can get into flow in your day. Right now, this is a flow state between a conversation between one of my favorite catalysts, and we're talking, and it's kind of like you lose sense of time. And that's one of the 4 characteristics of flow. And you're in flow when you either have a selflessness, meaning you kind of lost your ego, you're sort of just showing up authentically as yourself. And for those listeners that don't know, I'm waving my hands and I'm just being me, and that's all into flow. You lose that ego. You're in this bigger circumstance with other people or with nature or with the music or the dance. Then there's the effortlessness. In other words, that what task you're doing feels like you're on autopilot. It's like you're in the zone. Maybe you're going downhill skiing, maybe you're surfing the wave, and you're just feeling like this is perfect. My skills almost match that challenge. There's a sense of timelessness where time either elongates or collapses and 5 hours go by and you're like, where was I? And then finally, richness, all 5 senses. And so what we've done through the training that I try to infuse into the Catalyst studio is teaching practitioners that how you do one thing is how you do everything. So nothing grows us more personally than starting our own business, you know? And so, man, does that call into our boundaries and how do we manage our time and how do we find flow? And so, for patients and practitioners, we talk about the 4 phases of the flow cycle, which it starts with struggle. And that's the honest truth. And people think, oh, wait, no, flow sounds easy, right? No, it has to start with a little bit of struggle, a little bit of, can I do this? Either can I fit this in the 5 minute time frame I've given, or could I possibly publish a book? I don't know. I mean, that's hard, but it has to have a little bit of struggle. If it was too easy, you wouldn't get into flow. And if it's too overwhelming, that just means you got to chunk down to smaller tasks where it feels like, okay, I think I can do this. So that's the first phase, is struggle, rich in beta waves, and your brain is more in that frontal cortex. Then you move into the release phase, which is the second phase. That is the alpha brain waves coming forward. Those are the creative waves that come forward and give you an aha moment. Much like if you're taking a shower and you're like 73% of us that have an epiphany and go, oh my gosh, it's my grandma's birthday next week. I forgot those flowers, you know, things happen. And that's the release phase. And we'll circle back on that because there's important things you can set to trigger more flow. After the release, you go into flow. Flow is that grandiose, wonderful environment where you're popping those 5 neurochemicals. You feel great. You're getting it done. You are more productive, like 400% more productive. You find more meaning in the task and your memory is better. So kids know when they're doing their fun flow play activities, they go back to school and they learn better. They actually retain better. And then finally, the recovery, which is the fourth phase of the flow cycle. And that is the most overlooked because we love flow. Flow feels good, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
you love being in flow. It feels good. So you don't want to break it, but we have to. We have to pause and recover and unplug and go out and touch grass and do the yoga and the breathing. And then you go right back up to the beginning again.
But I think that recovery phase, you know, I meet so many women that are so successful and they're just balls to the wall, right? So we're at midlife, we're pushing up against the glass ceiling in our careers, we're managing the kids that are trying to launch, we're dealing with older parents. There's a lot on our plate. And there's no recovery in their workday. There's no recovery in their personal life. And they're like, my brain's not working. I'm like, well, if we could talk about how your brain needs to work, it needs this recharge to happen. So, you know, if
Yes.
we're trying to do a task, what did you tell us? Like 90 minutes, 60 to 90 minutes, and then we need to take a break, right? Is that too many
Yes.
minutes? Is it 45 minutes? How many minutes?
Typically anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes, but
Okay.
I find myself, and it's really personal. And that's where it's interesting to look at a flow cadence can differ with people. And it depends on the activity. I mean, you probably wouldn't go downhill skiing for just 30 minutes and then take a break, you know?
Right.
But when you're talking about something cognitively draining, like you are a CEO executive, you are pushing that glass ceiling and damn it, you've worked hard for this part of your career. And oh my gosh, your parents are ailing, your kids are going to college, you're doing all the things. Saying, okay, how would you manage your day? What is like the most productive part of your day? If you wake up and you're a morning person like me, you can tackle a morning and be done and suddenly it's noon and you forget where the day goes. Well, that tells me that you probably should put your toughest, most challenging, cognitively draining things actually in the morning because you'll probably fly through them. But then you deserve a break, right? So it's usually, 60 to 90 minutes. You might have 2 flow blocks in your day. And then you take a break and you go for a walk or you dance. I have a little shaker in my office. I draw. I do all sorts of things. The important thing for us women that are high achievers and kind of trying to make it in a patriarchal world is to honor those emotions and pause and go, okay, what am I feeling right now? Am I activated and like kind of energized? That's great. But maybe I need something. What does it need? Do I need to feel calm again? Go touch some grass, right? Or the reciprocal. I'm feeling drained. Okay, what does that need? Maybe I need some more activating activity. Put on your favorite playlist and bop around because those are flow enhancers. They will actually allow you to get into your afternoon with more energy and then you can go right back into another flow block.
Okay, so let's outline this for people. So let's kind of go through maybe some flow enhancers and then maybe some
Yes.
recovery steps. That'd be fantastic.
Absolutely. So flow enhancers are anything that will help encourage a nice bit of dopamine. Not now we're not talking like, a little bit of crystal meth here, okay? We're talking about like really natural highs of dopamine, serotonin, even oxytocin. Oxytocin is that bonding hormone that makes you feel like you are trusted in a safe environment, because flow is easier amongst familiar people. That's why kids love to coalesce on the playground with their friends, because then they can get into flow easier than maybe strangers, right? So think of things that help you raise those levels. Things like being in a good mood. Now, I wish I could turn that on immediately. For me, not always, but everyone knows what might help them be in a good mood. For example, some days I decide I'm going to work from home. That's going to keep me in a good mood. I might just be a little depleted. I don't want to come to the office. And I have the privilege of having a lot of telemedicine. So I'll just choose, I'm going to stay home with my dog today. That's going to
Mhm.
keep me in the better mood because I just need that right now. Other things are good playlists. I have a TikTok collection called Dopamine Hits, and I will go there and laugh my ass off. And I'll be like, okay, I'm in a good mood now and I'm ready. Right. And other things. So those things like getting in a good mood, practicing gratitude daily helps increase the threshold of you able to get into flow. Also nature, going outside, looking around the horizon engages parasympathetic nervous system. So it helps you really calm out of that hustle, hyper, sympathetic overdrive. Those are just a few examples of setting those little flow release triggers that help enhance that. And then you're able to dip into that flow. The biggest thing is don't push it. Flow should come easy. And if you're sitting there grinding after 15 minutes and you're frustrated, then it means that, you need to go for another walk, or maybe just pause that task. Maybe now's not the time. Can you put it on the back burner? Right now, the other thing is removing the flow disruptors, because there's a lot of
Mhm.
disruptors that we don't realize are at play. So things like interruptions, that's the number one most common thing. Turning off our phones that are going to interrupt us, our computers, our bings, our bongs, even if it's just noise. I have a beautiful downtown square, and every hour on the hour, there's a clock chime. And sometimes that really marks time for me in a way I don't want to know. Like, oh, geez, it's already been an hour. So I wear earplugs, right? So looking at your scene and your setting and how you can avoid interruptions. And if you're in an office and you're in a corporate world, put a sign on your door like, I'm not available for the next hour. I'm doing deep work. I love that book, Cal Newport, Deep Work. And really be honest with other people and don't let them needle their way in. I mean, nothing is urgent. That's what I tell my kids. Is there a bone sticking out? Are you bleeding? No. Okay. So interruptions, clearing those flow blockers. Other things are your mindset. If you're sitting there, you don't have a growth mindset, you haven't cultivated that yes and philosophy that we talk about, right, in our mentorship of, okay, that was something I didn't plan on. It's not a mistake. It's an AFGO. It's another F in growth opportunity. We all have it happen, right? And so you just keep that growth mindset. The other thing that is most common is a misalignment of values. So maybe you're working in a corporation where their values have shifted. I've seen this happen in functional medicine and in other industries where maybe that business was acquired or bought out, and like new people come in and they're just not jiving with how you thought it used to be. It's not as comfortable. It's okay to question that and to start, how can I bring more of me in this space? Flow is you. It's you being expressed. So can you look at personalizing it somehow that it makes you feel like you're showing your values in that setting? And those are just some examples of flow enhancers and flow blockers.
Great. And then what about recovery? Like the thing we don't do is we have this great session, we got whatever done. You wrote the next chapter of the book, you came up with the next podcast theme, whatever.
Yes.
Or we see these amazing infographics. Maybe that would be one thing she do. There's fantastic infographics. So like you've done this, and then what are you going to do to reward your brain?
Oh, I love that, because you're hooking it. That's great. Reward. And we often think of reward as like, okay, let's eat some chocolate, let's have a glass of wine. I'm talking to you, menopausal ladies. That's no longer a good reward. Okay. So start to explore the other options for rewards. Maybe it's something like I don't know, a salacious novel that you've been trying to dig into, and you're just going to keep that on the shelf until you get a few things done, and then you can pull it off the shelf. It's beautiful because it's not a digital screen, and it's authentic reading with natural light. So the rewards that I look at now are very much quiet for me. It's drawing, using my hands, even sometimes something as simple as a bilateral activity with your body, because bilateral activities help enhance neuroplasticity. So whether it's a walk, I have a little drum. Some people like to knit. Yoga, breath work, all of these are great rewards because they're giving your body what it needs to just sit back, unplug, and kind of basically rebalance the cortisol and the dopamine, because we live in a hyper cortisol world where we go from one thing to another and then we're off to the next task. And what you're doing is kind of making yourself cortisol resistant in a way where you're just depending on this high level of cortisol to get things done. And you need to step back. And actually, in our training at Flow Research Collective, we were instructed for one activity to stare at a wall for 5 minutes, nothing else. And let me tell you, Polly, that was not fun, but it was telling that, wow, I do have a problem. I think all of us do with cortisol, because it's fun. I mean, I love looking at everything, but you need to give yourself that treat of silence.
That's what I like about swimming in the morning, because it's quiet. I mean, I hear the birds when I breathe, but then that's what I hear. I see birds and trees, and then it's 45 minutes, and
I have such a crush on you for that alone, because I've always been I'm not a very good swimmer yet, I should say. If I was talking to my kids, I'd say yet. But I haven't prioritized learning. I really had maybe a swimming lesson or two. And I've always coveted those people that so gracefully would just lap the pool back and forth. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, you're totally romanticizing this. So I was not a swimmer ever. I was a ballerina when I was little, and I never did any sports. I learned how to swim in college, like learn how to swim, not swam for a college.
Wow.
And so I would not use the word graceful to describe me at all. This is purely a mental health activity. It's zone 2 training. Fine. I'm with my friends. I'm in nature. It's a great reset, but it's like, that's the staring at the wall, right? Where, okay, what do I want to do next? What feels wrong? What feels right? It's a really good place to kind of settle.
Ooh, that's even more inspiring, Polly, because the fact that you weren't like this little 3-year-old learning how to swim all the way up. I mean, well, maybe I can learn. You're inspiring me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah, come on down to Raleigh. We'll swim. It'll be hilarious. So another thing that you do in our group that is so helpful. So I think we talked some about boundary setting, and how do you set boundaries if you don't know what your values are. So you have these little mad libs that just, like, when you start saying, what are your boundaries? You're like, oh my God, I got to come up with this profound thing. But then when Laura is like, hey, I'm going to break this down with you in chunks, and it's like completely manageable task. So you're a genius for this. So give us this kind of aha method, mad lib, value.
Yes.
Activity.
Oh my gosh. I love it. First, I'll give you a bonus. We'll first talk about, I love my other boundary. I'm going to have two, because I love like breaking it down to simple things, Polly, because I'm simple and like I'll forget myself. It's more for me to put it in my brain. So the FAT method of boundary setting is framing an expectation and anticipating somebody might breach that boundary and then thanking them for upholding it. That's one of my favorite golden nuggets for all of you women out there. That, for example, using that corporate example of, let's say you're going to tell your coworkers like, hey, I'm going to try something new and I'm going to take a lunch break and actually take a lunch break. I'm actually going to be unavailable. So let's say you're framing that expectation. You're saying, I'm going to set a new boundary. I'm going to close my door. I'm going to have a sign on there and it's going to say, I'm not available for 50 minutes. But see, you're going to also anticipate they're going to breach it. Somebody's going to knock. Somebody's going to do something. It's human nature. They may forget. And so you will quickly open it up and say, hey, remember that sign? I'm trying something new. Thank you so much for letting me take care of myself. And then you close the door. That's an example of the FAT technique for framing your boundaries. Now, when we talk about setting goals, I love the AHA method, which is what I designed as like a antidote to burnout. So, you know, if burnout is feeling like depersonalized, well, then let's anchor into your values. That's who you are as a person. If burnout is feeling like you're not making a difference, there's low perceived achievement, well, then let's highlight progress so that you feel like you're doing something. And then finally, if burnout is emotional exhaustion, then let's activate emotional energy and vibrancy. So when you're looking at setting goals, a very simple Mad Lib that I love to use is the anchor, highlight, activate. So you think, first of all, you conjure up a goal that you want to have. So you're going to state it in the positive, right? We're going to manifest. I will achieve blank, right? And if you're doing the SMART goals technique, you might want to put a time on there. So let's use an example. I will publish a book in 1 year. Okay. And then you say, why you anchor. It matters to me because, and then you state your values, your why. So it might be like, well, it matters to me because I'm passionate about the benefits of creativity and flow in alleviating healthcare burnout. So that's the second step. Then you go into highlighting the milestones. I'll celebrate my progress when, and then you look at, okay, how can I highlight those milestones? I'll celebrate my progress when I finish my second draft and send it to the editor. And then maybe again, when I pick my cover art, right? Chunk it out, makes you feel like you're doing something. And finally, I'm going to protect my energy by, what are you going to activate? What flow enhancers? What flow blockers are you going to remove? So we talk about, I'll protect my energy by dedicating 2 hours every morning for creative flow. And I will remove those disruptions like phone and setting timers. And then I'm going to set some flow enhancers like 10-minute meditation to start, or a playlist. And so that's how you can, in 3 steps, start really setting goals and using flow neuroscience to help you achieve them.
Because we all need this, no matter what our occupation is, even if we're running a household, which is a really important job too, right? Caregiving, all those things, like having some time for ourselves, trying to be clear in what we're trying to accomplish, and then breaking it down to steps and making it happen.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Especially all those menopause warriors out there. I mean, we are doing everything we can to hold it together. And sometimes we love goals. Goals makes us feel good. We're all toddlers inside wanting that sticker chart saying, look at the receipts. Look at what I'm doing. And the biggest person you need to impress is, your 8-year-old self and your 80-year-old self. Honestly, those two are the only people that you need to impress. So, asking yourself, what am I doing to really make myself proud? And how am I holding my energy and protecting it so that I can be as, vibrant as I can?
So are you picking 8 and 80 because those are seasons in our life where we don't maybe have as much social awareness about what the person is doing next to me? Is that I was
Ooh, I didn't even think deeply on it. I just thought, what's young? 8. What's old? 80,
okay.
But I love how you framed that. That's great, because you're right. Eight is, I think, to me, maybe you'd probably agree. In my kids, I felt like 8 years old was the last cliff of the edge before they started to realize, oh, you mean those pants might not look cool, or like suddenly social awareness starts to creep in around 9 and 10. So I think you're right, spot on. 8 is still that last innocent age, and then 80. I mean, personally, I think it's after 45 you start, not giving a care. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. That's what's fantastic about this life transition is you're like, okay, I'm going to do me and get out of my way because I'm going to do me and I'm going to make sense for me. And that is kind of where we're at right now. And there's a lot of freedom in that.
Oh,
there's a lot to celebrate about this time of life.
Yes. And in so many cultures, matriarchies are pivotal. The grandmothers were the ones central to the tribe, and they're the ones with the wisdom that kept the family unit together, but also had the calmness of, when you do produce less estrogen, you do kind of like give away your cares. You're like, okay, that's a good benefit. I really don't care as much anymore what anybody thinks. I'm going to do it for me. And I think that's a time to embrace this newfound second puberty and explore, maybe like swimming. That'll be my exploration.
Well, this has been so great. Thank you. I think I want to you are one of the people in holistic and functional medicine that is really geared towards personalization and helping people where they're at. And I feel like the one thing that I don't like about our field is that we've got some mean girls, if you will, where if you're not doing the umpteen jillion elimination diet and you're not doing the counting every single macro in the world, and it becomes impossibly hard. So can you leave us with a little bit of what is a way to do good enough? Let's reinforce this good enough may be a whole lot better than perfect, because we don't want that cortisol of trying to become.
Yes. Oh my gosh. First of all, let's pause and unpack that just a little bit, because that was gold. What you said is this and I agree with you on every statement, 100%. The functional medicine field, while lovely, has really been self-sabotaging in the fact that they make it so aspirational that it's overwhelming. And it can
Mm-hmm.
trigger us women that identify as like high perfection achievers, overachievers, all those things, right? Right. Where it's like, okay, I guess I'll do the elimination, and then I'll take these 10 supplements, and then I'm going to circle back and redo those tests. And then I'm going to breathe 5 times every 5 hours, whatever it is, all these crazy routines, all the bro medicine, all the stuff going on, the biohacking. It can really handicap us from making growth in an authentic way and in a sustainable way. And so I have this mantra over and over again with the catalyst and with my patients is you need to have a healthy BM every day. And the BM is bare minimum, just bare minimum. That's it. Have a healthy BM, right? And so be practical. I'm in the Midwest. I mean, I'm in a farming community. So I'm very upfront when I tell them, hey, you know what? I'm not a priest, so this is not confession. You're not going to have to come back in a month and be like, I'm so sorry, I did not do all the things you said. I'm going to expect you not to do all the things. And what I want them to do is have that trust and safety, remember, because flow needs that oxytocin. So I really involve them in that process and understand you don't have to do it all. Your body is so wise and amazing that even just doing a little bit is moving the needle in the right direction, and just have a healthy BM. That's it, bare minimum. Once a day.
I love that. I love that. What a great place to wrap up. So we'll all do a better job with our BMs.
Perfect. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much, Dr. Lara Salyer. And you are going to give us your flow diagram, and
yes,
we're gonna include that in the show notes, and also links to Laura's
perfect
business practice and her professional practice.
Perfect. I would love to help get flow in any way so everybody can be self-expressive and, helping themselves, either if they're a practitioner, helping them express their unique healing styles to transform patient lives without burnout, or, if you're a patient, just helping yourself dip into flow and be creative and have fun again.
Thanks for listening to Menopause Rescue. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast and it helps you create some time and space to make this the best half of your life. If you've enjoyed this content, please leave us a 5-star rating and review. This helps other listeners find this resource and rescue and restore their health. If you enjoyed this topic and want to learn more, check out our resource guide for this episode. If today's podcast resonated with you and you want to take a deeper dive, check out my educational resources. We offer basic membership, which is an archive of over 100 videos on menopausal topics ranging from bone health to libido. We add to this archive every month, so the resource becomes richer and richer over time. If you're looking for a menopause expert and live in North Carolina, take our free online class and see if we're a match for your needs. It's called Are We a Good Fit? And is a quick and easy way to learn more about our practice and what it has to offer. Hey, this is Dr. Watson. This is just a friendly reminder that this podcast is for general information purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine. No doctor-patient relationship is formed, and any information you get from this podcast is considered educational only. You should make medical decisions with your healthcare provider. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice. Listeners should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice for any medical condition, and they should seek assistance from their healthcare professionals.